Hello, and welcome back to Nerd News. Today we have the new Pokemon announcement for Bellibolt, and we also have some problems over at Platinum Games regarding Bayonetta 3. Let's get started. First up, we have the new Pokemon Bellibolt. It seems to be the signature Pokemon for the trainer we got revealed last Wednesday, I think it was. Iono? I don't know. It's a cute Pokemon. I like it. It's an electric frog, which is kind of unique. We haven't seen that. We have had quite a few frog Pokemon, but not an electric one. This is a pure electric type, too. I like that it has, like, the two eyes on the side of its head, but also, like, in the front to give it, like, a little smiley face. It's cute. I don't really have a whole lot to say about it because it's just a new Pokemon, and it's cute. Hopefully it's good. The new ability seems pretty good. If you attack it, its next electric attack used will be stronger. That seems pretty good, but I'm not a competitive player, so I don't know. It seems fine, though. But yeah, I like it. It's cute. It's adorable. The trailer was good. Kind of wish they just revealed it earlier, but I like it. I'm liking this Pokemon. Kind of wish they didn't reveal it on Friday, though. Keeping with the Nintendo news, we have Bayonetta 3 and some problems. According to the original voice actress of Bayonetta 3, or of Bayonetta, Helena Taylor, she was offered $4,000 to reprise her role for Bayonetta 3. And that's it. The whole game, as the main character, $4,000 extra for like profits or bonuses or nothing like that. Just here's $4,000, use the whole game, that's it. That sounds like a lot of money, but it's not. When you're a voice actor, that's really not. You're not voice acting 100% of the time. You're not. This money has to last you from job to job, kind of like regular acting. You have to pay for health insurance. You have to pay for things like you have to pay your own taxes. It's not taken out of your wages like it usually would be. You'd have to pay that. $4,000 just isn't a whole lot of money, and it would be one thing if she was like a small role or like a side character or something, a lot of lines but not like the main thing. But she's the main character of 2 games and this is the 3rd. I don't know what she was asking for. She never actually says what she was asking to get in the video, but $4,000 is not a whole lot of money for a literally $500 million franchise. I think Bayonetta has made $400 million. She points it out. It's like $400 or $450 million just off the first 2 games. So I feel like they probably could have given her like $7,000, maybe $8,000. Like, I don't think she was asking like for like $100,000. I think that's pretty obvious. I don't think that's like what she was getting at. I doubt she was even asking for like 10. It's probably like $7,000 or $8,000 that she would expect, which is reasonable. You have to think that voice actors don't get work consistently enough like that. They kind of have to audition and prepare for roles, and it's a lot more involved. They might only actually be working 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month at a time to do a game like this, and maybe only a few hours each session over the course of a couple weeks. However, that their job doesn't really just end and like start and end. It's not like a clock in thing when you work, a regular 40-hour job. They have to, train for this on their own time. They have to pay for this on their own time. They have to be, capable of their job. It's just a different thing. It's a different field. You can't really make a one-to-one comparison between a regular, 40-hour week job and something like this where, yes, you may have only been recorded for, 50 hours or something to get the whole game done, but getting your voice together, taking care of that, figuring out how you're going to voice the character, and developing a voice for the character takes time and energy that you aren't being paid for. The idea is that you get a lump sum of money, or at the very least a lump sum and then residuals on the game based on sales or something like that, or the show on not for streaming, but for like when they air reruns, syndication, something like that for most voice actors. So in this case, if she's not getting anything on the back end of the game, so post-release there's no additional money to come, you expect the initial sum to be quite a bit higher, because they're losing out on any additional money. If you make, you know, 100 million, 200 million on this game, she's only getting, yeah, she's not seeing any of that extra money. You're only getting paid for that initial work, so you expect that to be a little bit higher. I don't think that is ridiculous to expect more money. Again, especially for the third game in a franchise, I feel like maybe the first game $4,000 would have been a reasonable amount, but at this point, she's voiced the character multiple times. She probably deserves a bit more money than that. Also, who knows if she's getting paid for like the Bayonetta 1 and 2 re-releases that keep happening. Like, again, if she got paid for that one fee, that one-time fee, and now they've released the game like 3 or 4 times, does she get paid for all those times? Probably not. So they're making, you know, continuously making more and more money off her work, and she only made that one small fee. So if you're not going to give her anything on the back end of the games, after the game is, while the game's making money, then a larger fee up front is, you know, reasonable. It's a reasonable request. And again, I could see somewhere like $7,000-8,000 being a more reasonable sum, but that's just my own opinion. However, I don't agree with the entire video that she's put up here. I do think that her calling for a boycott of the game is a little ridiculous, and her, I don't want to say attacking, because she didn't attack Jennifer Hall, but saying that Jennifer Hall doesn't have a right to the Bayonetta character is a little ridiculous. You don't own the character is not yours. Like, I agree that Platinum Games is being kind of shitty about this. I agree that Hideki Kamiya is being kind of shitty about this and not being willing to pay you a reasonable sum. However, you didn't take the job. It's like any other job. If they aren't paying you, you just don't take the job. That's not to say you can't complain and ask for more money. That's fair. But if my job wasn't paying me enough and I quit, I wouldn't then boycott them because they wouldn't pay me. It's just they're not going to pay me enough. If you want to work for them and make the shit wages, that's on you. But I would want more money. And it's kind of the same thing. I get it's not quite the same, but it's kind of the same thing in this instance. Is like, you're not required to work there and you chose not to. I'm all for complaining that, hey, they were undercutting me on wages. They weren't trying to pay considering how much work I've done for the franchise. I'm with you on that. You'll lose me a little bit when you start saying, well, you know, no one should have taken the job over because I didn't take the job. No one should have come in and taken the job. That's just not realistic. Other people have to eat. You may have the luxury of not taking that job, and that's good. You shouldn't have to take a job that's underpaying you, but not everyone has that luxury. Someone sees, you know, $3,000 or $4,000 in front of them to, you know, pay as a payment. They might just really need that, and you shouldn't be attacking them for that. I don't think that's fair either. Two things can be true at once. Platinum Games could have done something shitty, and I think they did by not just giving her a reasonable amount of money for her work. But at the same time, she can be wrong for attacking the people who took the job. And Jennifer Hall didn't really do anything wrong by taking that job. You chose not to take it, and that's well within your right, and I completely agree with and understand why, but you shouldn't be attacking someone else because they chose to take it. That person still needs to eat just as much as anyone else does. In some better news, we have Celeste. This is just a fan mod, but someone ported Celeste to the N-Gage. I don't know why, but they did, and it makes me unrealistically happy. Like, it's stupid, but it's cool. It's pretty cool. So here's the person who did this. It's Michael Fitzmayer. They don't have it on your favorite console? Well, here you go. It's on the N-Gage. I don't know why you'd want to play this on the N-Gage, but enjoy playing it on the N-Gage. I do have an N-Gage, and I would never play this game on the N-Gage. It sounds so bad. sounds way too hard. Playing N-Gage games is really a lot. The buttons are not the best to use. And Celeste is kind of a hard game. As much as I love Celeste, it's one of my favorite games, especially of the last few years. It's like 5 years old now, but still, one of my favorite games of the last generation, PS4 era. Fantastic game. But probably not something you want to play on the N-Gage. But if you want to play it on the N-Gage, it's now available. Here you go. Link will be in the description to this tweet, and they link it to, I believe, where you can get the game for the N-Gage, I assume, or a way to put the game on the N-Gage, I assume. You probably should have the game, but definitely buy the game. Just buy the game, because the game's fantastic. Even if you don't plan to play it on the N-Gage, just go buy the game. It's on the Switch. I don't think it's that much money. I know physical copies can be a lot of money. Even the Best Buy version can be a lot of money now, but if you don't want to spend the $100 or whatever it is on a physical copy, at least go buy it digitally. The game is fantastic. But if you want to play it on the N-Gage, here you go. And next up we have G4 TV shutting down immediately. Here is a memo from Dave Scott, the chairman and CEO team. As you know, G4 was reintroduced last year to tap into the popularity of gaming. We've invested to create the new G4 as an online and TV destination for fans to be entertained, be inspired, and connect with gaming content. Over the past several months, we worked hard to generate that interest in G4, but viewership is low and the network has not achieved sustainable financial results. This is certainly not what we've hoped for, and as a result, we have made the very difficult decision to discontinue G4's operation, effective immediately. I know this is disappointing news, and I am disappointed too. I want to thank you and everyone on the G4 team for the hard work and commitment to the network. Our human resources team is reaching out to you to provide you with support, discuss other opportunities that may be available, and answer any questions you may have. Thank you again for your hard work for G4. Sincerely, Dave Scott, Chairman, CEO, Comcast Spectre. So this is a lot of PR speak. Obviously, the context here is pretty simple, but they're shutting down. But there's a lot of PR speak. And I say that because they say our human resource team is reaching out to help with support and all that stuff. And if you just scroll down, just a smidge on this tweet, Jared, the completionist, big YouTuber, if you don't know, very big YouTuber, also works for G4. I would say one of the big gets that G4 had as far as personalities to be on the channel. I don't know exactly what he did with the channel, we'll get into that in a second, but as far as people that are on the channel, he's big. This is how he found out he lost his job. From this tweet. Before telling their employees, the people that work there, someone else managed to tweet it out. That means this memo was sent out to outside sources before anyone told the employees. That's bad. That's wrong. That's wrong. I don't really have much else to say there. That's just wrong. But back to the G4 issue at hand. G4's around? Who thought this was a good idea? Who actually thought that G4, a cable channel, was a good idea in 2022? Nobody watches cable. Who the hell has cable? I haven't had cable in 15 years. Who the hell has cable? This was a waste. This was dumb. I'm not saying that G4 can't come back. G4 in and of itself is basically just what everyone in gaming YouTube does, but it was on cable. They could have just came back with that branding and made a YouTube channel and probably would have been fine. Cost less money, easier to operate, that kind of thing. Probably would have been fine. This was a bad idea. I don't know what they were thinking here. This was dumb. And obviously it is dumb because they shut down. A year in, they shut down. Also, you didn't have plans to be open more than a year? It's bad business. It's like you're Comcast. You should be smarter than that, right? Like when you open a business, you're supposed to have like a couple years of availability, like to be able to go for a few years before you become actually profitable. Having to shut down in a year, either you were not really prepared to actually launch this, or you really fucked up somewhere. I don't know which it is, but that's bad. Anyway, G4 kind of sucked. I don't know why you'd want to come back. It wasn't even that good back in the day. It was fine, but there's YouTubers out there that make better content than G4 ever has. Go support them. They're just, people. That's it. Speaking of people that make better content than anything on G4 ever has done, The Completionist. His YouTube channel is better than anything I've ever watched on G4. I don't know what he did on G4 now, but like his videos on games is far and beyond anything else out there, really. So watch that if you need, like game reviews and stuff. It's far better than most people you're going to watch. He obviously completes the game, so that's much more entertaining, at least in my opinion, than anything you'll find on G4. G4 was kind of stupid. Why did they bring this back? And lastly, we have a couple new Yu-Gi-Oh cards. This one is Repeated Land Transaction. Normal spell. You can only activate one card with this card's name per turn. 1. Target one face-up card in the field zone. Banish it. Then place it face up in the field zone of the opponent of the player who controlled it. Then you can choose one field spell with a different original name in the graveyard of the player who now controls the first card and place it face up in the field zone of the player who controlled the first card when it was banished. So, that sounds more complicated, I think, than it really has to, but that's just to make sure that the wording works. Essentially, if your opponent controls a field spell, you banish their field spell, and then it reactivates, it doesn't activate, but replaces itself face up on your side of the field, and then you can target a field zone in your opponent's graveyard and play it to their field. So they get you take their field spell and then they get a new one from their graveyard, is essentially what's happening. But because it's any field spell, this also works for you. If you have a field spell, you can banish it, place it in your opponent's field spell zone, then take one of your field spells in your graveyard and play it in your field. So it's a neat card. I actually think this has some use. This is pretty good. It's definitely going to take some theorizing and playing with, but this is a good card. I think eventually this card will see some actual play. And the last card I want to talk about here, these are just the random extra cards that are coming in the next set, Photon Hypernova. There's a few of them here, so the link will be in the description below if you want to see everything. This is the only other one I want to cover because I think this one's interesting, and that's Weight Measuring. It's a normal trap. If your opponent controls at least 2 more monsters than you do, they must send monsters they control to the graveyard so they control 1. I like this because it's kind of like evenly matched, except they don't get banished, obviously, but they always go down to 1. So if you control 2 monsters and your opponent controls 5 monsters, they go down to 1 monster. Doesn't matter what you control. If you control 0 monsters and your opponent controls 2 monsters, they go down to 1 monster. So I like that it's always putting them to 1 monster, whereas evenly matched, if it's for every card you have and they can kind of choose what they're doing. Obviously this only affects monsters too, so that's a bit of a negative to it. It's not at 1-to-1 with evenly matched, but I think this is a really good card. This is another alternative to Torrential, which I think we're starting to see more and more of, because as good as Torrential Tribute is, it does destroy your monsters, and that kind of makes it hard to play. Whereas a lot of these newer retrains, not retrains, but these newer variants of it are doing the same thing, but just to your opponent. and in this case, taking your opponent till they control one monster, it's always going to be a 1-for-1 or more. So it can be a 1-for-1 if they have 2 monsters and you have 0, or you're playing 1 card, and if they have 3 monsters, they're going down to 1. So it's +1. It just continues building on that. So I think this is good. I like this. This seems like a decent card. This is another card where I think at some point this could end up seeing some kind of play. Alright, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe down below. Let me know what you think of the Bayonetta situation or G4. More interested in hearing what you have to say about G4 though, because did anyone actually watch G4? I mean, it doesn't sound like it, but like, who wanted G4 to come back? G4 was ass when it came out the first time. Who thought this was a good idea? I'll be back tomorrow with more nerd news. Bye.